The designer that I chose for explosion of design after World War II, 20th century, what was good design is Alexander Girard, an interior and textile designer who was one of the most prolific of his era. Alexander Girard was born in New York City in 1907, but moved to Florence, Italy in 1909, where he was raised during his childhood. During his time in Florence, Girard was immersed in the artistic atmosphere and the cultural influences of the old villa in which he settled into. At the age of 10, Girard was sent to attend the English boarding school Bedford Modern School, located north of London. Far away from home and separated from his family, Girard began to imagine his imaginary island, the Republic of Fife. For this, Girard created designs for flags, postage stamps, coat of arms, coins, and paper currency and games for his made-up island, which collectively drew from motifs of the Italian Renaissance, such as the coat of arms of the Florentine guilds. After completing his education in 1924, Girard completed his architectural degree from the Architectural Association School of Architecture in London in 1929. It was also during 1929 that Girard was given his first interior design assignment, which was to furnish the showrooms of the Florentine Artisans Guild at the World's Fair in Barcelona. In 1931, Girard received a diploma from the Royal School of Architecture in Rome after having extensively renovated a Rome-based villa in collaboration with the architect Ugo Gianvenosi. In 1932, Girard relocated back to his city of birth, New York, where he opened his design office for home furnishings, which he offered to private customers. 3 years later, in 1935, Girard had completed a degree program at New York University, which allowed him to become a registered architect in the United States. A year later, in 1936, Girard became married to Suzanne Needham. After having lived in New York for 5 years, Girard and his wife had moved to the industrial and automobile metropolis of Detroit in 1937, a city which provided them with boundless opportunity. Thanks to the personal connections of his father, Girard gained the opportunity to work for the prominent interior design studio of Thomas A. Esling and his wife Helen Esling. Additionally, Girard had gained the opportunity to develop a lifelong friendship with Charles and Ray Eames, as Charles Eames was studying at the Cranbrook Academy of Art, located in the nearby Detroit suburb of Bloomfield Hills. Girard's first major breakthrough as a designer was his designs and direction for the show for modern living at the Detroit Institute of Fine Arts in 1949, displaying an array of objects from dog leashes and sunglasses to glassware, silver, and furniture. With the work of Charles Eames, Alexander Girard had joined the furniture manufacturing company Herman Miller and became the director of its fabric and textile division in 1952. Girard brought out his first textiles collection for the company and designed more than 300 patterns for wallpaper, curtains, and upholstery fabrics in more than 20 years. Girard worked alongside Charles and Ray Eames as well as modernist designer George Nelson to form a design team which would go on to influence the foundation of design in the United States.
Whatever it takes. I like this one.
Girard's high-quality furnishing and upholstery fabrics were characterized by a combination of usually powerful colors such as red, pink, orange, and purple, which were uncommon at the time. The motifs which he used for his designs ranged from simple geometric shapes to letters and patterns such as pepita. Additionally, Girard drew motifs from nature such as the sun and vegetables, and always resorted to the traditional motifs of folk art, especially from Central and South America. Girard worked with paper cutouts, stamp prints, collages with layers of tracing paper, and compiled these designs in numerous sample books. Girard's work gained more popularity in 1959 when he was asked to design the interior for the La Fonda del Sol restaurant in the Time and Life building, an extension of the Rockefeller Center in New York City. The prominent sun motif and decoration of folk art objects, along with the furniture design from Charles and Ray Eames, won him a silver medal in 1962 from the Architectural League of New York. In 1961, a year before winning the award, Girard opened his textiles and objects store in New York City, where he sold objects he brought back from his travels, his own textiles such as pillows and tablecloths, as well as small furniture by other designers who were working for Herman Miller. Although the store was financially unsuccessful, it provided Girard with a unique experience, which he described as seeing, touching, and remembering familiar associations and all the other intangible activities of the mind and soul. In the early 1960s, Girard and his wife Suzanne moved to New Mexico, where they established the Girard Foundation, one of the largest collections of folk art in history, with over 100,000 pieces. This collection consisting of folk art along with other artifacts such as popular art, toys and textiles from around the world can be found today in the Museum of International Folk Art in Santa Fe. In 1965, Girard was assigned to a new project, which was to redesign every aesthetic aspect of Braniff Airlines. Girard made 17,543 changes to their brand, which consisted of 7 aircraft color schemes and 56 total fabrics. Other changes included plain interiors, logos, stationery, condiment packages, dishes, blankets, and playing cards, among other aspects. In 1967, the Herman Miller Company introduced a line of seating by Girard, which was based off his work he produced for Braniff Airlines. This series consisted of simple shelf structures provided with a variety of upholsteries. Despite the series being discontinued a year later, the products in this line are considered highly relevant and collectible today. Girard's final designs for the Herman Miller Company was the Girard Environmental Enrichment Panels, a series of decorative silkscreen panels which are considered bold and playful. Originally released in 1972, these designs served to personalize and add an element of aesthetic functionalism to the installation of action office environments. Serving as the mark of the end of his career with Herman Miller, these designs consist of single standalone images that range from abstract patterns to figurative pictograms. In 1993, Alexander Girard passed away in Santa Fe, New Mexico, where he lived for 40 years. The Museum of Modern Art's exhibition, What Was Good Design, 1944 to 1956, showcases a range of objects designed by influential designers of the era. The design which I have chosen to examine is Alexander Girard's printed silk gauze fabric titled Circles, displayed in 1951. Alexander Girard is able to display good design through Dieter Rams' 10 principles of good design. The first principle of good design which Girard uses is good aesthetic, as the silk gauze fabric is visually pleasing. Girard's choice of orange, crimson and purple on ivory work well together and work to create interesting levels of contrast and saturation across the palette. What is more noteworthy about the aesthetic of the textile is that the pattern does not conform itself to a grid, but rather each of the circles seem to be subtly offset. Alexander Girard was able to show that a good design makes a product useful, as the textile was designed and produced to be used as decor in a house or office environment. It's useful as a piece of artwork as opposed to a product that can be used to help people or make life easier. Alexander Girard's printed fabric shows good design through down to the last detail, as the patterns had to be precise. The fabric was designed following a pattern that ensured that each of the motifs was slightly offset, and the attention to detail shows respect to the consumer and that Girard took his time in designing his textile. The silk gauze fabric shows that it is good design as it is environmentally friendly. This is shown through the use of silk gauze and linen to make the textile, which are sustainable, renewable and biodegradable materials, which means that no harmful materials were used in order to produce the textile, such as plastic. The final principle of good design which Girard's silk gauze fabric uses is that good design makes a product honest. The silk gauze fabric is honest as it is obvious that it is a textile's design. It is also honest as it shows that the product offers no functionality other than decor and doesn't mislead consumers as to what the product is or does. I can apply the information which I have gathered from this assessment task to my own work, as it has taught me that using simplistic designs can be beneficiary and appeal to a consumer more than a design with numerous elements. I can apply Girard's attention to detail to my own work to show that I've spent time paying attention and applying details to my designs. That means the product that is produced is the best of my ability. I can also draw from Girard's use of color contrast and backgrounds in my own work to make sure that the certain design elements and principles stand out and that the overall piece of work is clear and aesthetic. I can apply Girard's use of environmentally friendly materials to my own work in the future.